I grew up in Cassett, South Carolina, and I had a brother named Dick. His name is actually Alvin Ferris Elliott. But when he got into politics and moved to the beach, he decided he wanted to be called Dick, and he legally had his name changed.
Was he older than you?
Dick's older than me. I have a sister and John, of course, in between the two of us. But Dick's a self-made man, very studious, very intellectual. Dick liked to use his brains and not his hands on the farm, which he did.
Was he tight with a dollar? He's always been tight with a dollar.
He knew how to manage a dollar. He wasn't tight with a dollar. He knew how to manage a dollar. And he knew that if you were going to be in business, you had to spend money to make money. He always had that business sense about him. Dick came home and after going to Clemson, told my mother, he said, "Mother," he said, "I'm going to the beach and open up a real estate business." And he said, "I need X amount of dollars." And my mother and I and Dick were in the living room, and she said, "Dick, are you sure?" He said, "Mother, I'll make this commitment to you. I'll be a millionaire at 40, or I'll be sleeping in the streets." And the rest is history.
Well, he accomplished that goal, didn't he?
And now, how'd he get to the beach? I forgot.
Well, he and your mama had a little discussion and thing, and he had, knowing Dick, he was a little stubborn, you know, it always had been a little stubborn. As bright as he is, he was stubborn somewhat. And he had a car there, and I think that your mama said, "Well, if you're going to the beach, just leave that car home with you here." You must have had the insurance or something or other. He said, "Well, I'm going anyway." And I said, "How are you going to go to the beach, Dick?" He said, "Well, necessarily I'll walk." And so he started out, and you said, "Well, look here, don't let him walk, for goodness sake. I know he'll walk if he has to," knowing Dick. You said, "At least let's take him to McBee and put him out." So we took him over to McBee and put him out, and then he thumbed to the beach. He didn't have a wash rag with him, didn't have a shirt or anything, but knowing Dick, he made up his mind to go to the beach. And that's kind of how he got down to the beach. The next thing, a few years, he come back driving a brand new car and all this kind of stuff. So he did very, very well at the beach. But there's a lot of humorous stories about Dick. There's two sides of him. There's a side that financially, and then there's a side of humor in Dick and public service. And the one I like the best, he and I was in Florida one time, and I don't know if I ever told you this time. And he was driving this old Cadillac, and we was going down the road in Florida. I'm driving, because you know, Dick would take a nap sometime. And he was over there nodding and so forth, and I said to him, "Dick, I smell something." He said, "No, ain't nothing to it, just drive on." And I said to him, "Well, Dick, there's a red light up here on the dashboard." And I'm driving 80 miles an hour on the turnpike. He said, "Oh, that thing has a shortage. And don't worry about it, go ahead on, man. Don't lose no time, we got to get to the golf course." And after a while, I began to smell smoke. I said, "Dick, it says oil lamp." And Dick said, "Oh, that's a shortage." I said, "No, man, look here, there ain't no shortage. I'm going to put in here the oil check." Well, Dick didn't want to spend no money, but I spent in there anyway. And the fellow was taking his oil, and the man put the oil stick down in there and pulled it out. He said, "Hey, fella," he said, "look here, when's the last time you changed oil?" And Dick said, "Oh, 3 or 4 months ago." And the fellow said, "Man, you don't even have a quart of oil in this thing. You sure it's been 3 or 4 months ago?" He said, "Yes." And the man said, "Look here, on this sticker here says here, it's been 2 years since you changed oil." Dick said, "It can't be, brother, it can't be." The fellow said, "Look here, man, you need some oil." I never will forget what Dick said. Dick said, "Look here, fella, look here, just put in a quart if you don't mind." He said, "That's all I need. So I get back to North Myrtle Beach, I'm going to trade this car." That fellow said, "Man, you can't go back to North Myrtle Beach with just a quart of oil." He said, "Well, put 2 quarts. And that fellow said, "Look here, man, I'm going to put you 3 or 4 quarts of oil here to get you back to the beach. If you don't have the money, I'll just charge it off my income tax." I said, and Dick let him put the other quart of oil in there, but I think he had out one paid the fellow. But that's the side of Dick now. He can make money, but he didn't want to spend any money at those stuff. And that was one of the most humorous stories.
That was a time when he was investing in land and stuff, and he watched his dollars, and he knew if he spent $1, It had to be for something investment-wise and not for the good of a material possession. And if you notice, he drives a car till it just kind of won't go anymore. He's not want some that have a lot of expensive clothes. He doesn't have to have. He just doesn't. He's not into material possessions. He's into possessions that will enhance the quality of life for his family or for the community. He gives a lot back to the community, and he's given
That's true.
to a lot of
That's
things,
true.
Bobby, that
That's true.
no one even knows about.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because during the 90s, I was highway commissioner, and Dick always wanted I-73. I talked about the I-73, and he was one of the great early leaders of I-73. In fact, I have a picture here. I'll show it to you in a few minutes. But he was one of the first ones that stood under the I-73 side. You was there, and Ann was there. We put the sign up in Bennettsville in honor of Dick, because he was one of the first ones that ever mentioned me about I-73. And he was one of the second ones ever mentioned me about the Conway bypass. I remember he talked about the Conway bypass years and years ago, early 90s, 89 and 90, when I was on the Highway Commission. And I said to him, Dick, we don't have any money to build a Conway bypass. And he wanted to build it, so forth. So we forgot about it. Then a guy, his friend named Billy Alford, thought about building a bridge on the bypass. And we thought that was a good idea. Then we built the bridge. Then several years ago, after that, Dick and Billy Alford got together, and they were one of the first really pioneers of a Conway bypass. In fact, Billy Alford and Dick Ayers, one of the first people who ever mentioned the Conway bypass to me in 89 and 90. So you got to give, you're right, Dick was a good public servant, so you got to give him credit for that.
Well, he was a visionary.
Also, I-73 too, yeah.
He was a visionary. He still is.
Yeah.
When I think about him growing up in our family, you remember I told you about Mama. She realized Dick was intellectually very, very bright in the family. She knew that about her son.
He's a little bit brighter than you.
We're about equal.
No, you got a doctorate degree now.
We're about equal. We'll put it that way. Dick and I kind of were and I don't mind saying this, we were the mavericks in the family. We thought different. We acted different. And I kind of went to a different beat. And if I wanted something, I knew how to work to make it happen. Still that way. But Dick is also like that. But I remember my mother, at that point in our life, there was no such thing as going somewhere or going on the internet and buying encyclopedias. Of course, you don't even need those today. But she knew Dick did not like school. He was bored stiff in school. He was bored out of his frame sitting in a classroom because he was not challenged mentally. And my mother bought a set of encyclopedias I will never forget. And I remember my dad coming home that night, and a salesman had come to the door and sold my mother those encyclopedias. And Dad said that night, said, Ira, what are we going to do with a set of encyclopedias? She said, there's a reason I bought this. John will be the one that'll get out there on the tractor and till the soil. Dick will till his brain.
Yeah, that's a good story.
That set of encyclopedias, Dick read every one of them page to page. And here's what happened, much to my father's dislike at the time. He would take an encyclopedia to the field on one tractor. My brother would take another tractor. Dick would park the tractor, take an encyclopedia, sit down beside the tractor tire, and read all day long. And God bless, John loved him, and he never told on him. But that's how he could come home and talk about things. And I used to love his stories of things that he had read in the encyclopedias. And I think that was what engaged me, because I was the baby in the family. And they said I would never do anything because I was spoiled rotten and all this stuff, and I was my daddy's pet. You know, I got all that with being the baby of 7 siblings. But knowing Dick and I knew what he was capable of.
Well,
I've never been disappointed in Dick, and when I've had adversity in my life, and I had adversity at one time, I still have the letter, as you well know, at the lake house. He sat
well,
down
he
and
was,
wrote me a 3-page letter on yellow legal paper. I cherish that because he offered me anything I needed. He said, sis, whatever you need, you got it. I don't care whether it's me coming, money, I don't care how much. You just tell me what you need. And
well,
I got the
he
written
was smart.
document for that,
He
but
was-
I've never shared
yeah.
it with anyone except Bobby.
Well, he was smart, you know. And I too remember number 9 too. That was of all the Dick's projects. Number 9 was one of his greatest one, and also you remember the connector from not from North Myrtle Beach, the other way him and Ann lived and start off up there. He was a connector. He wanted a connector from where did Dick have the department?
Right there in Ocean Drive.
Ocean Drive. He's the one that mentioned to me about a connect from Ocean Drive out to be 31 or something, or maybe it was 21 or something.
21.
21 or 31. Might have been a connector from North Myrtle Beach down to Garden City, but he wanted a connector from Ocean Drive to that. And and I don't know who got credit for it, but I had to say this, that Dick was one of the first one to mention that to us, the Highway Commission. And of course, there's enough credit to go around, but Dick deserves a lot of credit for the connector from Ocean Drive to out to 31 and 32, I think, so forth. But Dick had done a lot. He did a lot, and he was very, very community oriented. And there was two sides of Dick, financially and in public service, so forth. And I think he accomplished most of his goals in both of those areas. I think, Mary.
I think he did too, and I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud of him to call him my brother. And there's just so many experiences in life that I could share that are family oriented.
Yeah.
But you know, Dick is success.
Well, you look at his family. Tell that his family been very successful.
Well-
David, Rick, and Angela, all of them got out of school and done well, so forth. And he and Ann have a remarkable family, and all of them did well. And that's saying a lot. So you and Dick come a little community of Cassett, to be honest with you. They on that road where Dick was raised, there was 2 senators and 2 doctors. You and Alvin Holland and Senator Holland and Dick. And the 4 of y'all to come from a little community of Cassett on what we call a dirt road. It says a lot about the Elliott family, to be honest with you. Yeah. And Dick has done well, and he'll continue to do well as long as he lives. Yeah.
Dick loved family history. We have there's a cemetery in Cassett that's got a lot of our relatives. I could have cared less about that. That's not something that I was interested in. But sometimes when Dick was in, high school, he literally spent hours and hours in that cemetery. And he would come home and he would ask, now who is this man? He'd write it down. Of course, at that point, there was no such thing as cameras, so he could, have that record. But he'd take a pencil, paper, some kind of pad, write all this information down. And for years, he collected all of that. And I bet that it's still in the bottom section of his Ocean Drive office there, Cherry Grove office, because he collected all that stuff in boxes and it's probably all of that still stored because he kept everything. I mean, Dick is he's not a pack rat, but he knew how to organize things and keep it. He didn't just throw it down. His mind wouldn't let him do that. He had to have some order to everything about him.
Well, let me tell you, you talk about that. I remember the Mary and I got married, and Dick was at the beach. But Dick doesn't have a watch. He doesn't care anything about time. Hour doesn't mean anything to me. If you're going to meet him and this, that, and he can be late and so forth. And he doesn't care a lot about time. So Mary and I got married, so times were kind of hard during the 60s, and he was already at the beach. And so Mary and I decided to go down to the beach for our honeymoon. And the day we got down there and we're getting unloaded, and Dick came by to congratulate us and to welcome us. He said to me, "Hey, brother-in-law," said, "get in the car," said, "I'm going right down the road." Well, you know, Dick, right down the road could be 100 miles, it could be 10 miles or 3 miles. If you come right back. I said, "Dick, I want to stay around here and help my bride to get unloaded." He said, "Come on, brother-in-law, we'll be right back, we'll be right back. We're going to see a couple of people." Well, let me tell you something. You know what time we got back? We left about 4 o'clock that afternoon, got back about 8 o'clock that night. You talk about Mary being mad. Mary mad. She was mad, boy. Me and my brother-in-law too. I said, "Ain't that a heck of a thing down here on my honeymoon? You take me all 4 hours." But I guarantee you, there was no activity that night, I'll be honest with you. They were set for bedroom that night on my honeymoon, so I always held that against it for running my honeymoon. Dick, you still don't know anything about time, boy, huh? So there was lots of humor about Dick in his time, though.
Well, I remember the time the whole family went to the beach when he had just bought about a 2,500 acre tract of land. And he had this vision that he was going to build a golf course on it. And he had some kind of old blue van that was kind of used around the real estate office. And he piled me, my oldest sister, Bobby, and somebody else, I can't remember, in the back of that van. And we rode all afternoon. Going through, there was no such thing as roads. He was going through trees. I can do this year,
Was that
this year,
Eagles
this
Nest?
year. This is, and we went through all kind of trees. That today is Eagle Nest Golf Course.
Yeah.
That's the kind of vision he had.
You think we ought to tell about him and John? Dick had a brother named John, and I like this story. You can elaborate on it and make sure I got it right, because he was told me many years ago that both of them were pretty good athletes. And both of them. And John, the oldest boy, was a boxer. And all his friends tell this. And he and John got in disagreement one time, and they put the boxing gloves on. And you're going to have a boxing match. And John was kind of an amateur boxer.
Well, he boxed overseas while he was in service, so he was trained.
And Dick thought he was a great boxer, because Dick wasn't scared of anything. And Dick challenged John to a boxing match. And the guy said he got out of the boxing, and John knocked Dick down, and Dick got back up, and John knocked him down again. Dick got back up. This guy's why, Dick, don't get back up, because John was older than Dick. John said, "Dick, stay down." But no, Dick, he wasn't going to stay down. He'd always been a fighter. He got back up. I don't know what was the outcome of that match, those guys said. They never tell me that, but they said that John knocked him down 4 times, and that stubborn Dick get back up and grab him again, and John knock him down and get back up. Just shows you that Dick had lots of drive and willpower. But I guess that's why, one of the reasons, because he's been such a successful business, he had that drive to
John
succeed.
walked out of the ring.
Is that what John out of the ring? Okay. And let Dick assume a little victory, I guess. That's right.
Not that. He just didn't want to hit him again, because he had boxed while he was in service. So he knew all the right moves and things, and Dick thought he could take him on. And
but he wasn't scared, though, was he?
Dick is not scared of Satan himself.
Yeah.
And that's good or bad sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I think it's made him what he is today.
Were you there that day?
No.
No. John said, "Please, Dick, don't get up." He get back up. John knocked him down again. "Please, stay down." so I think John finally walked out of the room and run back to the house. So that's a great story.
Well, they actually had because John boxed after he came home.
Yeah.
Amateur stuff around town and different places and all. And he had a punching bag, and I don't know where you know what a punching bag is, but he literally set up a place behind a storage house on the farm, and he'd go out there and practice. I mean, he would go out there and he would punch that bag and all. So Dick started doing that, and I guess he thought he was as good. But you know, if you have to tell something on Dick that he wasn't quite as successful at, that would be one thing against his brother.
Didn't you have a U-car one time if you got out of school? You came home from school and you missed your U-car, Dick.
Please let me tell that story.
Tell
Bobby.
That's a great story about that.
Bobby bought me a Super 88 Oldsmobile convertible when we got married. And Dick and I drove it home. Bobby and I were secretly married for 4 months before I graduated from high school. So I went home on the weekends, and my brother John lived in the town where Bobby lived at that time. So on the weekends, when I'd get out of school, I would go to stay with Bobby on the weekends. And John went with me to get married. So everybody knew that I was married, and I had one friend. Nobody else in high school. And at that time, my mother already had Alzheimer's, so it was just an unusual time in our lives. But I drove the car home, and I was going to go to school the next morning and all. So on Sunday afternoon, Dick comes in, and my keys were laying up on the counter in the kitchen, and my uncle, Wade, was over there, who lived about 5 miles from us, and he and Dick were talking. And they decided to go to Florida.
In your car?
They picked up my keys and took that car and went to Florida. I had no idea where they were. And I thought, oh my God. But I drove my mother's car to school like I had done before I got that car. And on Wednesday, they showed back up like nothing had happened.
I'm sure they filled your car up with gas, though, didn't they? You had a tank full of gas?
You know, at that point, I remember just being thankful that the car was back and that I didn't have to tell you, not knowing where the car was.
Yeah.
Not that I was scared of you, it was just that Dick did unusual things like that. But Dick's not the kind of person you can hate. He's the kind of person that those things make interesting life stories for him. And we've always had this give and take.
Well, you two have been close all your lives.
Yeah, we have always been close. Even to this day, if I see something happen in the family dynamics that I don't like, I'm the first one to his defense, and he knows that. And if somebody says something to him, he's very quiet. He will not say anything back. But when he speaks, that's it. You just know, now that's enough. And if he says that, you don't go there anymore. Now, he's never told me that. He's never told me that's enough, because I know Dick's personality well enough to know he gets tired of hearing stuff. He wants to talk business. He wants to talk personal service, and he's been a good public service. And I think one of the things that impressed me most is when he left the Senate, several of the senators got up and made comments, and they said, the one thing about Dick Elliott is that he always said, whether it was Republican, Democrat, or whatever, he said, let's pull up a chair and have a conversation.
Well, didn't he get the Order of Palmetto too?
Yes, he got the Order of
Palmetto. The governor gave the Order of Palmetto.
Yeah.
Which is a very honorable thing.
Yeah, and he was very, very appreciative of that, and it was well-deserved. It was not like sometimes you've heard in the past that people got Order of Palmetto and you kind of look around and say, you know, what did they do? But this time, not because it was my brother, but because I knew of his history. I'm not sure that sometimes his children even know all of the things that he has done in Columbia for this state. He was very low key. He doesn't have an ego. He does not want credit for a lot of things. He just does things for other people.
But they tell me, though, I believe I'm correct, that's the first time, some of the senators said the first time that the governor ever came over to the Senate and gave anyone the Order of Palmetto in person. I believe somebody was telling me that.
Well, people in the Senate.
I hope that's correct. Yeah, the Senate was telling me that, and I hope I'm correct. But they said the first time a governor would come over to the Senate and was in anybody with the Order of Palmetto. So that says a lot about his stature, about his character, and everything.
Well, even Senator McConnell was telling us a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Dick, and he was asking how he was getting along, and he was sharing with Bobby and I that...
Tough legislature, yeah, go ahead.
He was sharing with Bobby and I that Dick was on the Judiciary Committee, and he said if something came up that was a little bit controversial, Dick was always the one that chaired it. He said, I never had to worry about Senator Elliott. not being able to get people to compromise a little bit, listening to everyone, but he could take that information and massage it and then come out with a solution. And he said, I couldn't do that with some of those issues that came before, but he was a master at that. And I guess that goes back to he's able to pull up a chair and have a conversation with you. After I retired from education, I was appointed to the State Board of Education. And the day that I was sworn in, I looked up and Dick was there for me to be sworn in. And it was a very special moment. I later became chairman of the State Board. And he always said, sis, what's going on? So we had a lot of private conversations, and Dick was one that could sit back and work with other senators and say, we might want to consider this for education. He never wanted to take that lead role in a lot of issues, but he knew how to get someone else, and he would sign on to a lot of bills, but he didn't have to have that recognition of I sponsor this, I'm lead sponsoring this. And he signed on to a lot of things, but he was getting a lot of information, always got a lot of information from us about what was going on. Even when they had these rulings that teachers couldn't take a lot of hours while they were teaching school, I challenged that at the State Department, and that rules will change. We had it where children didn't have PE. I was one of those people that challenged that, and now we have PE. I wanted guidance counselors in the school, and didn't have that in Kershaw County, and we have guidance counselors all over the state now. But I think the thing that impresses me since I've retired, I've been very active in the community and all, and presently I serve as the president of the Fine Arts Center here in Camden, and we have fundraisers every year. And every year since I've been associated with the Fine Arts Center, and I'm in my 6th year there as far as trying to raise money for the operation and capital improvement. Dick has donated money. And then just recently, 2 weeks ago, I was at the beach, and our grandson goes to Glen Forest in Columbia, and they're having a silent auction. And I was given a nice donation for Glen Forest. So would he want that publicized? No. It's just the kind of thing he does. And I know that there's foundations that have been set up that's been very, very generous. And I'm divulging family history there that I know about now. Yeah. And it is amazing what has happened with the support that's gone through that foundation from that business that he started years ago, and how much he's been able to give back to that community. And when I saw those records last weekend, it just made me feel so proud of my brother.
Let me interject something. I forgot about this thing. But Dick let so many people, different organizations, use this golf course. I know he let law enforcement come and take advantage. Law enforcement can play free. The high school golf team can play free. The veterans can play free. And people forget about the many rounds of golf that he let people in the community that deserve to use this golf course come and play free and so forth. And that is a great for education, high school, veterans, law enforcement. He'll do anything for anyone if he thinks it helps the community. He doesn't want anything for it. He does it because he's the right thing to do. And I remember one time I graduated, and I think about Dick a lot. When I graduated from Carolina, my professor said this: when you get out in life, find a job that you really, really love. And here's what I remember. He said, when you get there in life, reach around you and pull somebody with you. And I think about that. Dick has got there in life. And how many people in life has Dick reached around and pulled along with him? He never forgot where he came from, You never forgot those people behind him. And that's a lot, says a lot about Dick Elliott's character in life, about him. Lots of people forget about where they came from, but not Dick, so forth. And he has reached around, brought many, many people with him.